They left a bad taste and a bad feeling in the heart about having to leave it, tearing it down.
Only on NBC 29 tonight, a plan to fight segregation shattered a black church in Charlottesville, but now the Catholic diocese is hoping to heal that history.
The Catholic Church in Virginia is working to right the wrongs of a decision to integrate its congregations more than 50 years ago, following the Supreme Court's ruling to overturn legal segregation.
Yeah, the decision sent countless black Catholics, including those from a parish in Charlottesville, searching for other faiths. Matt Talhelm's here tonight with a story you'll see only on NBC 29.
Yeah, good evening, Casey and Steve. You know, we spent months tracking down some of these former parishioners of this church, as well as digging through the church archives to uncover what really is a very complicated part of Catholicism in Virginia. Now, some of these earliest diary entries that we were able to find from the priests who led St. Margaret Mary Parish in Charlottesville describe them bringing about 30 people into the church at first. That congregation would swell to hundreds, black and white, before the diocese closed the doors in the name of integration.
The faithful like Earl Chapman. The belief in God reaches beyond the church building and Sunday Mass.
I have a conversation with them all throughout the day. It's like we're friends.
He's drawn deeper in piety over the years at Church of the Incarnation Roman Catholic Parish in Albemarle County.
In the name of the Father, and of the
Son, and Holy Spirit.
Amen.
I've been in some hard situations, but my faith always got me on, pulled me through it.
Chapman first found that faith growing up in the Rose Hill neighborhood in Charlottesville in the 1950s and 60s. His mother would send the kids down the block from their house on the corner to St. Margaret Mary Parish.
We walked down the street, and before church, people would congregate outside until the Mass started.
The Redemptorists opened St. Margaret Mary on the corner of Concord Avenue and Forest Street in 1953 as an outpost of the Catholic Church in Elkton. It was their mission to evangelize the African American community in Central Virginia into Catholicism.
That was the only church that was around here at that time. We all grew up, got baptized, confirmed here.
By 1955, a newspaper article about the church's remodeling noted the congregation has been growing steadily.
And it was packed every Sunday. Every time I go past the church, somebody go in and say a prayer and then come on out. It just uplifted you.
Chapman carried his faith into military service during Vietnam, feeling protected by the cross his grandmother gave him, constantly worn around his neck.
And you just felt like you was close to heaven or something.
He returned home after 4 years to find his church closed, demolished, and replaced by apartments.
It just died. People's spirit, the morale and everything just died when they took the church away.
That day came for St. Margaret Mary's on June 12, 1966. The Redemptorists recorded in a diary entry, "Our colored out mission was absorbed into the local white parish, Holy Comforter." An article in the Daily Progress reported the amalgamation of the two churches is part of a church-wide program to integrate congregations.
Here you felt like you were sitting in somebody's house or living room, you know. Holy Comforter made you feel distant.
87-year-old Barbara Cage recalls that feeling when she visited services at the downtown church during segregation.
I would go there sometimes and I would move up to the front. They would make me sit in the back.
When St. Margaret Mary's closed, the lifelong Catholic moved to a predominantly white parish.
There's one other man that I see once a week, and maybe a couple, a husband and wife, but there aren't many Afro-American Catholics in Charlottesville. And then we all going to worship God, but it's all about color, you know.
The order to integrate churches in the Richmond Diocese came from Bishop John Joyce Russell. To accomplish that, he shuttered all but 2 of the 13 black parishes.
It was a very good, courageous decision, however, poorly executed.
Molly Pyle recently finished a history of the diocese ahead of its 200th anniversary in 2020. She heard from Black Catholics across Virginia how the decision left them feeling abandoned by the church.
It was a witness, a beacon, an anchor to many families who, outside of the parish, face such wounding discrimination. I think there is a recognition that many left the church, the diocese.
It's impossible to know how many Black Catholics left the church or how many have come back in the past 50 years. Right now, Black Catholics make up 6,600 of the more than 220,000 members of the diocese. That's about 3%.
We lost a whole generation.
The diocese is putting its faith in Deacon Charles Williams to bring more African American believers into the church as director of the Office for Black Catholics.
Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about healing. Let's talk about reconciling those experiences.
We met Deacon Williams at a Richmond parish, also founded by the Redemptorists the same year as St. Margaret Mary. It's one of the 2 Black parishes that remain after the desegregation.
My mother and people of her generation, it was a tough choice. It was a hard choice for them to make, to believe that the church was still for them.
It wasn't for Williams.
I remember the pain of when I heard that my church was going to be closed down, and I left.
It took him 25 years to come home to the Catholic Church.
Yeah, God called me back, thank goodness.
Now the deacon is trying to evangelize the African American community across the diocese with the message: the church wants them in the pews for Mass and at the pulpit as priests.
We recognized our mistakes. We apologized for our mistakes. Now we want you back. We want you to help us to grow, help us to heal, help us to be a whole church like Jesus intended for us to be.
But the past.
I can see the people out here now in the church, you know, and you can just feel the ghosts of it.
Isn't easily forgiven.
They left a bad taste and a bad feeling in the heart about having to leave it, tearing it down.
Chapman prays his peers and future generations of Black Catholics find their way.
Lord, have mercy.
His conviction is unwavering, with only the memories from St. Margaret Mary.
I was shocked that the church was gone, but my faith was still inside of me because I always carried it with me. Amen.
Lord, have mercy.
In November, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops approved a statement asking for forgiveness for its past in segregation. That document, called Open Wide Our Hearts, an enduring call to love, also provides resources for parishes to combat racism. And Casey and Steve, it's actually the first time in 40 years that the bishops have collectively addressed this issue. So going back to the times right after this desegregation.
Talk about a long series of baby steps just to get to this.
And you know, even since we started working on this story, Holy Comforter Church in Charlottesville actually scheduled an event, a panel discussion about St. Margaret Mary. They wanted folks to learn about this, and Earl, who you heard from there, was part of that panel, and he said, talking to that crowd there, it was just for church members, he said he got emotional, he teared up, and actually realized for the first time how raw this still affected him. And that's something that the church, I think, Holy Comforter hopes to address as well and work together with people in the community. And that's that first step, having a panel discussion like that.
Yeah.
Fascinating, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you.